So can you hear me? You could say on the chat. So, oh, and hi, Josh. So, can everyone hear me okay? Doodly-doo. I can hear Josh, I think.
Hello?
So you're hearing me okay?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Very cool. And Isabel can hear too. Good job. This is really for us to try stuff out. I can show you what I've been playing with, but also, if folks have any actual questions, I know it's break, but I could actually answer a real question as opposed to just making stuff up. So I don't know, do either of you have a question that I could lend a hand with?
I have a general question, I guess.
Sure, go for it.
So on Slack, it has the option to direct message people, and you're on that. So would you prefer that or the email, or do you really have a preference? Or
Oh, that's a good question. I think I don't care a lot. It's sort of what works best for you. To be honest, my Slack will mostly be, so messages to me on Slack will almost entirely come from students, whereas email messages come from all over the place. And as a result, I'll probably look at Slack first. But I usually then try to pull out student messages in my mail spool before I deal with administrative stuff and things like that. So really, it's sort of whichever tool works best for you. The other thing I would say there is if you have a question, so if you have a question that would, for example, reveal the answer to a problem, that should probably be either a direct message on Slack or an email. If you have a general question, like, I'm not sure how to use this rule, or how should we write up this thing, asking that as a general question on Slack is totally reasonable, because there could be a lot of people that would benefit from hearing that. And if somebody asks a good sort of personal question, I will sometimes take the answer and make it public, not necessarily identifying who asked the question, but sharing the answer just because it might be useful to multiple people. So I would encourage you to feel free to use general, posting questions in the general space in Slack, if that seems appropriate. I mean, I realize it won't always. And also, obviously, if you have some question that is about, advising or something like that, that has, clearly isn't really something everybody needs to see, or, it turns out you come down with COVID-19, heaven forbid, let's hope that doesn't happen, but some, class is big enough, it's plausible, if not probable. And you're like, hey, I'm really not feeling well. It may be a few days before I get back in the game, or a week, or whatever. That would presumably be an email or a private message on Slack. You don't need to tell everybody in the class that you're sick. Either, like I said, whatever works best for you. That was probably a longer answer than you had in mind, but
that's helpful.
Cool. Other questions?
I guess I don't have any specific ones. I haven't looked at the homework yet for next week.
Which is fine. I mean, it's break. You're not supposed to look at anything, or you're not expected to look at anything. I just figured I'd ask, if there was something, from the past, chapter 8, chapter 5, it would give us something to do. And this applies to you too, Isabel. So if you want to, you could type a question in the chat thing, if you've got anything, or you can.
Yeah, so I wasn't in class on Friday, so maybe we can do a quick overview on that.
Okay, so what did we do on Friday? We spent probably about half of the day talking about what we were going to do with the classes being online. I think we probably spent like half an hour going over sort of what the plan was. And I think you're already mostly caught up on that, to be fair. I mean, you've joined Slack, which we talked about a little bit on Friday, and you're here in Zoom. So I think you're, if anything, ahead of a lot of people on that front. So I don't know that you're missing anything there. Although if you have any questions about what's going to happen, I mean, my plan, so this was something we talked about on Friday. My plan is I will still have lecture on 9:15 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday here on Zoom. So I'll, create a Zoom session, post the link. People can join like you and Josh have joined right now. And I will go over some examples and I will answer questions as best as questions, are asked in this rather strange medium. And I mean, it's a little weird for me because at the moment, I can't see anybody. And even if you turned your cameras on, you would be tiny little things when I'm talking. So it's really going to be a challenge for me to tell whether the room is understanding what I'm doing or not. And so I would definitely encourage people to be like, stop, I'm lost. Or can you do that again? Or because it's going to be a lot harder for me to read the room than it is when literally we're in the same space together. So I'm a little sad about that, but there we are. So I'll class this way. I will try to record all of these and post the recordings online so that you can watch them later, either because you want to watch it again or because you missed it for any of a million perfectly good reasons. And hopefully that'll be available and folks will be able to watch those. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that yet. I was initially trying to use Zoom. Zoom will let me record to their cloud and then share back out from there. But that is turning out to be extraordinarily slow. A practice we did on Monday is still being processed 2 days later. That's not going to be acceptable. So I'm now, for this meeting, I'm saving it on my computer and I'll post it off of my computer. And I think that will probably be a lot faster.
Okay.
And then office hours will be, I'm thinking, having done a little bit of this week with people, I think I may drop sort of regularly scheduled office hours and instead post have a bunch of appointments in my Google Calendar and say, hey, people can grab a slot, like a half-hour slot, whenever you want to get together. I think that'll be a lot more efficient. Just a sec. Some people are apparently not finding the link for today's test meeting. Have slots, people sign up, and then we can meet that way. And I think that would be more efficient probably than attempting to do, have a bunch of people show up at my office all at the same time. And we'll see how that goes. Obviously, people should holler at me if that's just not working for you. But that's, I think that, so that's sort of the first half of Friday. Josh, and yeah, do you remember anything else happening in that part of Friday that you think Isabel would need to know? or benefit from?
I don't think so. I guess we did talk about like submitting homework, but that should just be
Oh,
done online.
yeah, thank you. That's a good thing. So, and hi, Yeshwant and Justin. Oh, and Noah. All kinds of people are joining. Isabel wasn't there Friday, was asking sort of what we went over. And so I'm sort of quickly spinning through that. So the other thing that Josh just mentioned was homework. So you could, I think there's a couple of options. Probably the simplest is to just write your workout by hand again, and then take pictures of it. If you've got a scanner or just a phone, you can take pictures and post those on Canvas, and that'll work fine. The other option would be to type your homework into Canvas and submit it that way. And I'm fine with either one. It really kind of depends on what you find to make the most sense given the time and structure in your universe. And it may, like if you have no way to capture handwritten homework, maybe it's easier for you to type it in. I don't know. But that's sort of what I was thinking on how homework's going to happen. And I don't remember if we talked about this, but I think what this means that the second exam, which is actually scheduled for fairly soon after break, I think, will become a take-home exam. So I'll post a PDF on Canvas with the questions, and then you'll have several days to figure out the exact details, but you'll have some time to do the work and then submit, again, pictures, or you can type it up. You could do it. Oh, you could do all this in like Google Docs and share a Google Doc back with me. Any of those things would be plausible. So that's sort of roughly what I'm thinking about for how we move forward. But obviously, if there are any questions, concerns, you've got ideas about how we might do things better, anything like that, absolutely share. That would be awesome and greatly appreciated. So does that make sense on sort of at least the first half of what we did Friday and sort of what we're thinking about moving forward?
Yeah.
Cool. And then I think we did do a little, I think I talked about a couple of theorems from chapter 8 in the second half of Friday. In particular, let me grab my book. I wasn't super prepared. So in chapter 8, and I won't repeat all this, but we could get to, we could set up an office hours or something if you want to go over this. I basically talked about the 3 range split axioms, which are 8.16, 8.17, and 8.18, and when you can use them. So they're all sort of kind of the same, but you can use 8.16 only when R and S is false. So you have 2 mutually exclusive categories of things, like even, I is even or I is odd. Those both can't be true at the same time. So you could use 8.16 there. 8.17 doesn't have a restriction, but it's a little harder to work with. And then 8.18 is really nice, but only works if the operator star is idempotent. Happily, in chapter 9, both and or are idempotent, so we'll be able to use 8.18 a lot. And in fact, in the example proof that I posted on Canvas and on Slack just a little bit ago, I use 8.18 as the first step in that proof because and is idempotent. So I think that took up the rest of the class, and I think that's what all happened on Friday. Does anybody who was there on Friday remember anything else that happened that was vitally important?
No, I think that was all just things about how class would go on.
Yeah, and we went through most of that, I think, before you and Justin and Noah joined. So I think we did most of the kind of what would happen before the three of you got the URL and all rushed in together as a group. And then we talked a little bit about the Chapter 8 stuff. So does that make sense, Isabel?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Other questions that people might have?
I have two questions.
Sure.
So the first is how, they're both sort of relevant. How can we, is there any way to like access the Zoom meeting room without needing the URL?
So I don't know, to be honest with you. This is
Because,
one part of Zoom I haven't fully grasped. There is a default meeting room number that I could use for all of my things, but then you might find yourself stepping into the middle of another class,
oh,
which
okay,
would be
yeah.
awkward and weird. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule a recurring Zoom meeting for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting Monday next week through to the end of the semester. And I think then all of those meetings will have the same URL, but I'm not 100% sure about that because I haven't done it yet. It may be that every single day has a different URL. If that's true, that sucks. And yeah, I'm not thrilled about that. But I'm hoping that if it's a recurring meeting, it will get a single URL, and that once you know it, you won't have to look it up every 2 days. And you can, I can invite, I'll put it on my Canvas calendar, or my Google Calendar, as well as posting it on Canvas and posting it on Slack. And I can invite everybody in the class to that meeting in Google Calendar. So if you use Google Calendar, it'll show up on your calendar and it'll have the URL in the meeting there as well. I will see how that works, and we can all shout if it doesn't work well.
Okay.
I'm hoping we don't have to have a separate URL for every class period, because that would just be chaotic. I mean, one thing, if that turned out to be the case, and I don't think it will, but we could make a separate channel in Slack that's just meeting URLs, so that you can always go there and know that that'll have the most current meeting URL in it. But I'm hoping we don't have to do something like that. That would be better, to not have to do that.
The other question was, where are the recordings of the classes put?
So I haven't figured that out yet, actually. I was initially, so Zoom lets you either record to the cloud or record on your computer. And I initially was like, oh, I'll just record to the cloud, make them deal with it. Well, there are two issues with that. It turns out that one of the practices I did on Monday is still being processed over 2 days later, and is still not available. Well, that's totally unacceptable. And that may get worse before it gets better, because I bet Zoom is being hammered by people like me going, oh, Zoom, I'll have to use that now, blah, 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 and then, throwing stuff at them. So I think they're probably a little stressed at the moment, to be honest with you. The other thing is, I think they don't really want you to use their cloud service as the way to distribute the video. I think they want me to download it and then put it somewhere else, like in Canvas or in YouTube. Well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well just record it onto my computer. So I recorded the little practice proof that I did like an hour ago onto my computer, and it worked fine. I was able to upload it to Slack easily. I'm not sure how the upload to Canvas would work, but I don't think that would be a problem. So I think I can post the recordings on Slack. I think I can post the recordings on Canvas. I could also just upload the recordings to YouTube, and then have them be private. So you'd have to know the link to get to the video, and then share the links in various places. So I don't know, what do people care about where the videos end up?
Not really. I think maybe having a Slack channel and then posting all the YouTube URLs there would be helpful, like having them all in one place.
Yeah, having them in one place would be probably nice. I could also create a discussion in Canvas that just I keep adding comments to, that are the link to the next video when the videos are ready. And so I could have them in both places. So, because I'm not sure everybody's going to join Slack. I would love everybody to join Slack, but right now I think we're at maybe 50% or less uptake on Slack. And it might get better. I mean, it's still break. It might get better, but I'll need to keep doing stuff on Canvas, because that's what people officially signed up for. Of course, none of you signed up for any of this, but whatever, right? Can't change that. So I think a Slack channel and a Canvas discussion or something like that would be actually, as an alternative to a Canvas discussion, I could have a Google Doc that just has like a bullet list of the links, and then just add to that, and then have that linked from Canvas.
You don't have to post twice.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll contemplate that, and if you've got great ideas or awesome thoughts, definitely let me know, and I can share that, or give that things a try. I mean, we're all kind of making this up as we go, so.
Have you decided what you're gonna do with, like, in terms of handing back homework? I know Justin had mentioned on Friday about posting like a general solutions.
Yeah. So I think that, yes, I will try to post solutions. I think that's pretty clearly needs to be an option, recognizing that there may be multiple solutions to some of the problems, and I'm not going to write out like 8 different proofs necessarily. So we'll have to be, aware that I'm posting a solution, and it might not even be the best solution. It might be a solution. And it certainly has happened where students have turned in solutions that were interesting in cool ways that I didn't think of. It's like, oh, that's a really neat way to use that theorem. And so if I'm writing up solutions in advance, that certainly shouldn't be taken to be like your solution was bad and my solution was better. I mean, I just may not have thought of doing it your way. I think if you're doing okay on problems, we will probably just give you the points and move on, right? Typing "this was great" over and over again on a bunch of problems feels good, but probably not the best use of the TA's time. So I think I had a conversation with the TA just before everybody left, and I think the plan at the moment is he will either write on your paper and then take a picture of it and post that on Canvas, or he will literally just type words on Canvas for things where you're having trouble, or you lost points because of a certain kind of mistake. But that's something we're going to have to work on, and you should definitely let us know, this feedback was very helpful, this worked, this did not work, this was confusing, or I didn't know what I did wrong or how to do better. Especially if that's the case, if you're like, I know I lost a bunch of points, but I don't know what the hell to do about it. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know how I would make it better. That's totally not cool. And we definitely would want to know that we're not giving you the feedback that you needed or wanted, if that's been happening. So again, we're going to sort of have to play it by ear, and hope that things we can work things out. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, because like my next question is going to be like, if I see that I get points wrong, like how would I know what I did wrong? And then like
Right.
ask you, like,
and you can always
is it
ask
wrong?
me, right? I mean, whatever happens, if you're ever uncertain, unhappy, unclear, whatever, definitely sign up for an office hour slot or send me an email or send me a message on Slack, whatever works for you. But we should definitely talk about it if you're like, I don't know what I did wrong and I lost half the points, right? Because that's clearly not cool. We don't want that to be the case. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Other questions? For
I
me?
guess I have a Zoom question. I see that there's like a raise hand button on
Oh.
participants. So, like if I press that, do you get
Oh.
like a notification or anything?
I did. That was super cool. So I have a little manage participants icon at the bottom of my window, and it's got like the little sort of anonymous head person, two of them, and then a 5 next to it to tell me there's 5 of us there. And when you press that button, a little speech bubble came up above it saying Joshua J. Eklund raised hand. So I could be like, Josh, what can I do to help? And if I click on it, it went away. That is super slick. And yeah, your hand is still up and I can lower your hand. You lower
Okay.
your hand. Awesome. So yes, that worked really well. I didn't know that was an option because I've only been looking at this week as a meeting organizer, not as a person participating. So yeah, that's actually really good because I could imagine just babbling on, babble, and that not realizing that somebody had a question or that I needed to slow down. And oh, and there's like little go slower, go faster, yes, no buttons. Do you guys have access to those?
Yeah, I see those as well.
Ah, that's
But
kind of
I don't
cool.
know.
And there's more stuff.
More. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, there's coffee break and so there's all kinds of odds and ends. Okay, so that's very cool. So I could say like, hey, quick vote, should I be going faster or slower? And everybody could like click the button of their choice, or quick vote, do people understand what's going on? And people could click yes or no. And I could get a sort of a quick straw poll of how people are doing on stuff. So that's very slick. Oh, I had no idea. Yay, team. I like that. So thank you. Definitely raise your hand when appropriate. Other questions? Everybody good?
Yeah.
So I could do like another example if doing an example would be a useful exercise, or if you feel like the examples that I've posted give you enough information to be giving me feedback. So I'm looking for feedback on whether I should do handwritten proofs with the tablet or typed proofs in Zoom. And there's a video with examples of both, and then there's the still captures of both on Canvas and on Slack at the moment. So that's, I think, the most important practical matter for me to make a decision on at the moment is whether I'm doing handwritten or typed. And so if people have preferences or thoughts, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear them. And like I said, we could do an example if you'd like to see either of those things happen live, or we could be like, hey, we've been here for half an hour and it's break and you want to go do something else, that would be fine too.
I guess I have not looked at those yet, so I wouldn't mind seeing a live example.
Okay.
That's not too much trouble.
No, we could totally do that.
A round of corona zombies and we're just leaving.
Let's see. Let me pick a problem that would be a good example. Let's do 9.8. Let me make sure that 9.8 is not on the homework. It is not. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to grab my tablet here. So I'll do the tablet version first. So I have ginormous tablet and little electronic pen thing. So the way this will work both ways is I will share a whiteboard. And that, I think, if I understand correctly, turns your world into a big white space. And I got a thumbs up there. Thank you from Justin. And so I can now write on this. So I can say exercise 9.8. And it's body weakening, strengthening. Body weakening. Oh. Strengthening. Oops, I lied. Every now and then it decides that I'm not using the pencil anymore, and I don't know why. That's 9.11. And the theorem in question is for all x, R is the range, P and Q is the body, implies for all x, R, P. So this is basically saying that if for all x we know P and Q is true, then for all x we know P is true. So it seems reasonable as a thing. So then the proof, I'm going to start with the left-hand side because it's got more structure. It has the Q, which I'm going to have to get rid of, so it probably makes sense to start with that. So for all x, R, P, and Q. Now the book recommends using distributivity of for all over and. So that's going to be a chapter 8 rule. So there's a distributivity rule that we talked about in class, 8.15, that, and so this is one thing I really need to, let me actually do that. I think I can do this. Theorems. Come on, find it. Well, or not. There are going to be times where it would be really useful to have the theorem list up. Oh, there we go. And be able to share that. Now, I think I'm going to have to share, I think I have to leave the whiteboard. Oh, so did you just, are you now looking at the theorem? Okay.
Yeah.
And the whiteboard went away, I assume, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me scroll down to the theorem that we want. So this distribution theorem, 8.15, is the thing that we're probably after. And it has star and star. Can you see my cursor, by the way, when I move my cursor around? Okay.
Yeah.
So in our case, this is the for all, and this is an and. Because remember that and for all are the same thing in our universe. So we're going to be using the right-hand side of this and using this rule to rewrite over to the left-hand side, which is going to be useful because that's going to split the P and the Q apart. So we'll be able to get rid of the Q part. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the whiteboard. And this part's a little clunky. Apologies for that. Oh man, too many things. So now I'm going to, this is by 815, distribution of and over for all. Oops, oh, that should have been an angle bracket. We're going to have for all x r p and for all x r q. And now notice that this is the right-hand side that we're shooting for, and we just need to get rid of this stuff somehow. And 376b takes care of that for us. 376b says that thing and thing implies either of the conjuncts. So we can just say this is RP, and that wraps up that proof. Okay. Questions about that before we do it again, but typed?
No.
I guess I have a question about like the rule or whatever. Is there another one that says like the same thing, but instead of P, it's Q?
Oh, like, so the actual thing we're proving?
Yeah.
Well, you could do that because you know and is symmetric. So you could always swap the order of these, and then you would get Q here if you needed it. So I just take that as basically a given that you could, if you've got a conjunct here, and in fact, actually, it could be quite complicated. So let's see if I, oh, no, I wanted to do this. Let's grab a different color so it's clear that I'm scribbling something else. So if you had A and B and C and D and E, so you had some arbitrary collection of weird things, that this would imply any one of those pieces, or in fact, any subset of the pieces. So I could say B and E, and that would be fine. Because you could always use commutativity and associative, or symmetry and associativity, to regroup this so that it was B and E and the rest of the stuff, A and C and D. And then this would be P, and that would be Q. And so we get this over here. So that you can generalize this pretty broadly if you want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I was wondering then, you can use 376b there because that conjunct is now outside of both those sets.
Correct. Good point. Okay. It's crucial that this conjunction right here be outside of both of the quantifications. And because it is, then this is thing and thing. And the things happen to be quite complicated, but it's still a thing and another thing. And 376b says if you have two things anded together, that implies either one of them. And so in this case, we're saying it implies this first one here. Other questions before we move on? Not hearing any. So I can make a new page, and then here we will use the text tool to do the same proof. One thing in both of these cases, I don't know what kinds of things people are going to watch class and or videos on. To make things big enough to be viewable on a phone, they would need to be pretty big. And so if if a phone's going to be your primary way of watching class, sorry, I probably get very quiet there as I walked away from the mic. If a phone's going to be your primary way of watching class, then I probably need to know that and make sure I arrange things so that that's going to work for you. Okay, so exercise 9.8, and we have, so body weakening, strengthening 9.11, which says, now I can't do the upside down A and the backward E in typing very easily, so I'm just going to use and or. So I'll use and for the for all and or for there exists, because I don't have a good way to deal with that with keyboard. With the writing, I can do that stuff a lot more easily. So for all X, R, colon, P, and I'm just using backslash forward slash for and forward slash, or backslash, sorry, forward slash backslash for and, backslash forward slash for or, which look pretty good, but it's also entirely possible I'll screw up typing that. So if I ever mess that up, definitely call me on it as soon as possible so we don't end up with a bunch of confusing stuff in the record. So that implies for all X are P proof. And again, I'll do the same proof. So I'll start with the left-hand side. I suspect do you end up hearing my typing? I assume
A little
clackety clack a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's sort of a bummer, but life's a challenge. I also don't have a good way of doing 3-bar equals. So I'll probably do like double equals just as a way to sort of indicate that I mean more than just regular equals. But if you have some experience programming, that'll maybe look like something else, and I apologize, not much to be done about it. And so then we're using 8.15 again, finding my theorems, 8.15, distribution of and over, oh, I'll just write for all in that case. So this is for all X, R, P, and for all X, R, Q, and now we use 376B, 76B, weakening, strengthening, and it's sort of not surprising in some sense that we use a chapter 3 weakening strengthening rule to prove a chapter 9 weakening and strengthening rule. In fact, you'll find as you do chapter 9 that a lot of rules, if they've got a name that is similar to a name from chapter 3, often the proof of the chapter 9 thing will use that rule from chapter 3. So there are some De Morgan rules in chapter 9 that end up using De Morgan stuff from chapter 3. In this case, a weakening strengthening rule from chapter 9 ends up using a weakening strengthening rule for chapter 3. So that's a sort of a tip. And then we're good. QED, can't spell. There we go. And so that would be a proof using typing. I think they both have some pros and cons, and so I would definitely love to hear from people about what you find most helpful. on this front. So,
I
question.
think
Go ahead.
I think the typing may be easier to read. No offense to your handwriting, but
No,
I,
absolutely.
but my main concern with this typing stuff is like it seems like it'd be harder to go back and like make notes or like certain adjustments.
So that's a great question. I can still do things like use the pencil to make notes on top of things. Whether that's helpful, I don't know. And I can edit the text. So if I had, let's say I decide I wanted that to be like that, I can come in and edit the text. If I go back to this, it's actually pretty hard to change this once it's been written. Like, that is a terrible left angle bracket. And here I got the paren and the angle bracket. I guess I could erase. Oh, hey, yeah, that actually did erase. So I can, and then I could do, oh, I'm still in erase, bad me, line. Wah, wah. So I can go back and touch things up in both cases. You know, I don't know that there's, but I do certainly think, I mean, it's not, no offense to my handwriting. I mean, this is not the best example of my handwriting. And, you know, handwriting is handwriting, but this is, I'm not really used to this tablet. And I only get to keep this tablet for maybe a week. I've got another I've ordered a tablet, which will be here Friday, just in case that was going to be the thing we needed to use. And it will probably behave differently. So I'll have another thing to learn. So I'm expecting that my handwriting is not going to be as clean as the tablet is, and not as clean as the typing. And so, you know, I don't feel like you're insulting my handwriting at all. It's just going to be a little weird. So, and I think, and Yeshwant did this. You can, in fact, grab the cursor and draw on this if I let you. Yeshwant, do you remember how you did that? I don't actually know.
I think you press on view options and then you press annotate. Annotate, and then I can go like so.
Ah, yeah. So he added a high up here, but you could also use the drawing tool, or there's actually a spotlight tool. And if you use that, you can sort of point at things. So if you're like trying to like, no, this line, silly, you could use the spotlight tool as a way of indicating what you want to look at. Or there's also this sort of red highlighter. So you could be like, I don't understand this thing. And use that to point at stuff. And so that might be a helpful thing to know. Other thoughts on the handwriting versus typing question?
I just wanted to like add in, so I did download and install Zoom onto my phone.
Ah, okay.
And I'm on the call on my phone as well, and it seems fine. It's definitely a bit smaller and definitely not as good, but I think it's definitely not unusable.
And is the handwriting also readable on a phone?
Yeah, it is.
Yay. I'm going to call that a win. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
On the phone, we can also zoom in on it.
Oh, nice. Okay. That helps. So you can zoom in on particular sections and see them more clearly. Nice. Thank you, Isabel. Appreciate that. So I have a little poll over on Slack for sort of what you prefer. And I would encourage people to hop over there and vote. Otherwise, Noah will take over the world, and we can't be having that. So, yeah, love to hear from folks. Other comments, questions?
Do you have a preference for one or the other?
Oh, that's a good question. I thought I really wanted to do handwriting. Now that I've actually done them both several times, to be honest with you, I lean toward the typing. I think it's easier to read. I can actually copy this text out of here as text and paste it into a Google Doc or Slack or Canvas, so I could like keep a record of proofs that we've done in class or in office hours and share that back pretty easily. I can also save this and share it. I did that on Canvas. But it seems to me like, you know, if I was going to come back and look at a proof, I'd sure rather look at this than that, to be honest with you. So I think I lean toward the typing, but I will bow to the will of the people. Like, you know, if 35 of you are all like, no, we must see handwriting, then by all means, I'll do handwriting. But I think the text, if other than the ASCII art problems, the text is pretty doable. And I'm pretty proficient at typing the ASCII art version of these things from answering questions in email over the years. So I think that would work fine. Other questions, comments about this, about the content of what we talked about how the class is going to proceed? Not hearing anything. Did we have a motion to adjourn and let everybody go and do whatever exciting things you're doing now that you're stuck indoors? Yeah, so Justin has moved for adjournment. So anything else? All in favor, say aye. We're out of here. Thank you all very much. I do really very much appreciate your feedback, your questions, and your patience in what is absolutely a difficult and weird time. So I will share this video and as soon as I get it processed, and let me know if you got any other questions. I think I'm not inclined to have any more practice sessions unless students want them. I feel like I've probably learned most of what I needed to know at this point, and I don't need to be taking up your time with this. But if you would like to have another session, I am more than happy to set one up. So definitely let me know about that. Otherwise, I will see everybody on Monday morning at 9:15 because it'll be fun. Yeah, that's the thing.
All right.
Okay, thanks a lot. We will talk to you all later.